What's happening, people? How we doing? How we doing, guys? We are back at it again. We got principle number 1 of mindset coming at you guys today. I told you guys, we got like the next 2 weeks. We are just straight talking about mindset principles. So we're going to jump into that soon, but first things first. Let's get these shares out, guys. Uno. Welcome, 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 guys. Give me a second. You know we got to get these shares out. Good part is I'm learning. We started a little bit early today, so we can get all these shares out and still have time to get through the stuff today, guys. Remember, if you're liking what you see, share, share, share. Few more left. And one last one, and we're going to get this show rocking. How about that on time? Alright guys, just about done here. Alright, shares are out, shares are out. Let's get this going. Woo! How you guys doing? It is Tuesday. It is what, August 15th. I'm like 39 in one day, but I'm feeling even younger and better than ever right now, guys. Listen, let's go ahead and catch up real quick. What did we start off with yesterday? We talked about what? Mindset. And we talked about the difference between mindset, again, internal, right? Versus trying to react to something external. Right? We want to begin to rely on ourselves. The world's going to give us 1,001 things, but we are the ones that got to stay the course in the midst of that process. So we're discussing mindset and not discussing motivation, and even the opposite side of that coin of motivation being about being about bullying, right? And when we talked about yesterday, we began, we kind of leaped into yesterday, from yesterday into today, talking about identity. Right? I remember I asked you guys, like, who are you if everything that you have identified yourself with is no longer present? right? Like if you've always looked at yourself in a particular label or role or position, well, when those things go away, well then now, how do you get a chance to define you? And that's what we're looking at right now. We're talking about your identity. And for you to have an identity is going to be extremely crucial. Again, guys, even going back to how we talk about our habits. If you remember from our habits, there's a couple parts. We got 4 big parts. We got the triggers, we got the thoughts, we got the actions, and then we got our unmet needs or our cravings that we're trying to satisfy through all these things that we're doing. Now, the problem with that is that we get criticized or we get praised based on the action, because that's what everybody sees. But nobody is around for our triggers. They don't care about our triggers and what turns us off, turns us on. Nobody is present around to know what our thoughts are even about. What's happening, Kenneth? Know what our thoughts are even about. And believe it or not, no one cares or knows what your unmet needs are. All the world is going to see is just your actions, and that's what we get judged on. So it's important for us to know that, okay, if the world is going to judge me on this, I got to be solid in this. So just like with your habits, if the world's judging you in your actions, I got to be solid in my thoughts. I got to be solid in managing my triggers. I got to be solid in knowing how to handle my cravings or unmet needs. Same thing when we're talking about identity, guys. So as I ask you guys to understand the difference between your labels, your roles, and your position versus you, it's the exact same thing. You see, the world is only going to see labels, roles, positions. That has nothing to do with you. What do I mean by that? Well, let's do a little bit of an example, right? I'm trying to get better with some visuals for you guys. So look, take a look at this. What do I have here? I have 2 cans, and to be honest, I think I may have even forgotten what's inside each one of these cans. But here's the deal. You got these cans right now, and it's content on the inside of it. Now, the deal about the labels that was outside, that's how people on the outside are going to be able to identify and connect with what's inside of the can. You see, if I'm not looking for what's on the label here, then I'm going to go past it. Right? I think we got soup and we got like beans here right now, right? So if I'm not looking for soup or beans, I'm walking right past it. Does that change what's on the inside of this? No. And if I'm a big soup or beans fan and I walk up and grab it, it still doesn't somehow change what was on the inside already. You see, the labels just make it easier for everybody else to fit us in to their life, to their environment, to their organization. It has nothing to do with who you actually are. So let's talk about the difference here. You see, when we look at our labels, and look at roles, look at positions, right? Like what kind of names or terms come to mind if you think about labels, roles, positions? Like for me, I'll keep it personal, right? George was what? A dad. Still am a dad. Husband. Right? Salesman. Yep, did a little bit of sales in my time. What else did George do? Position-wise, man, y'all couldn't talk to me when I was a branch manager. Couldn't say nothing to me at that point in time when I was a branch manager, baby. I was on top of the world then. But here's dad, here's husband, here's salesman, here's, branch manager. What else do we have here? Oh, we got things like what? Christian. Right? We got a bunch of labels, roles, and positions. Right? And let's be honest, again, that's how we get identified in the world. But what does this have to do with me? You see, here's the problem that I had when I was more consumed about the labels, roles, and positions versus knowing who I was. You see, this was really the easy way out. I thought the acquiring of all of these different labels, roles, and positions, I thought this was the end game. I really did. I said, look, George, woo, you're a dad. Just do that role really good. Woo! You're a husband, and believe me, I screwed up a lot in being a husband. I'm open about that. But even still, my mindset was, just don't mess up as bad as some of the other husbands I see. Right? When I was a salesman, same thing. Like, there was quotas, of course, but yeah, you do sales, most of you guys know, like, especially if you ever work with me, you ain't getting fired for not coming in with the sale. That's the whole thing about commission-based work, right? Like, if you don't kill, you don't eat, so the company ain't got to pay you nothing. So, it wasn't so much that when I did sales that I knew I had to constantly bring in the money to just provide, but now this elevated me in terms of a role that I felt that I had even inside of my own home. So now I got a chance to compare myself to other salesmen. Guys, I never had a chance to step back and say, George, are you being the best you? What I said was, George, are you being the best dad compared to all the other dads you know? George, are you being the best husband compared to all the other husbands you know? Where are you falling in that spectrum? Are you being the best Christian compared to all the other believers out here that you know? Are you being the best salesman, best branch manager? Are you being the best coach compared to all these different people? And what I began to realize was that when all this is gone, because believe me guys, I'm here because all this left. Like, my kids wasn't having anything to do with me. My two babies who I love like nobody's business, they thought I was a monster. You know, I completely, abused my relationship and my vows with being married. As a salesman, I would like to say that I always kind of like did the right things, if you will, but no, that didn't happen. And even as a branch manager, it was about comparing myself to other people. I was looking at everybody else in a branch manager position and just knew that, I had to just be better than them. I never focused on just being the best me and what value that had. Yeah, I'm bringing it up again, guys. We don't mention it too often. We don't connect the dots on this too often. But your adherence to the labels, roles, and positions versus your adherence to yourself is simply about saying, well, what exactly is it that I value? Do I value the labels, the roles, and positions more than I actually value what I'm contributing? And to be completely frank, guys, I value the labels, roles, and positions 100 times more than I actually valued myself. Like, I've always, for the longest time, it's until over the past maybe couple years, that I've learned to kind of deal with my self-esteem. I've dealt with my ego. I've dealt with my emotions and with my experiences, right? And all that led me to come to the conclusion about, wow, George, you ain't that bad. Like, even in this new phase of life right now where dad looks different, you're no longer a branch manager, being a Christian looks different. Salesman, you're no longer that. Husband, that's like, what's happening? But, hey, you're not a bad you. And you see, that's the problem right there, guys, is that when so much of our identity is just consumed with our labels, roles, and positions instead of really being about us, and we don't meet the mark in one of these, well then it's just killing who we think about ourselves. And you see, that's just not true. That's not how this is supposed to be. So let's talk about this for a minute, guys. How do we start reversing this cycle? How do we not just reverse it for you, but how do we also teach the next generation to be, more accepting of who they are and what they bring to the label, the role, and the position? Because let's be honest, in any environment, for the most part, you're going to be asked about your labels, your roles, and your positions. But again, that's because of everybody else on the outside. You apply for a job. The parts we're going to discuss over here may not land the job. So what do? You got to show them the different labels that you've had. Now we're going to talk about you operating in that job or operating in that role and operating in that particular position. But we got to understand that's just how this world operates right now. Right? We need labels. We need roles. We need positions. We want to categorize things. We want to box things in all the time. It's a big debate right now just about like gender identity, right? I mean, that's just a huge thing right now. The different labels, the roles, the positions that go out with that kind of stuff, guys. So let's get back and talking to you. How do we get from living a life consumed of labels, roles, and position building and achievements to saying, okay, who am I? Who am I? Huh? Who am I inside of this can when the label is gone? When there's nothing left, right? When there's no other way to identify me, how do I then know who I am? And this is what the process I had to go through, guys. I had to strip every label away. When I listed out who I was and every pronoun, all the descriptors, they kind of had to go. So when I looked up and I had to write out a statement as to who George was, well, it started off really shaky because I didn't quite know who I was. You see, in the beginning, when I first did this, I was like, George is alone. George is, I'm a loser. Yeah. George is, I'm an addict. Yep. George is, homeless. George is, broke, right? George is what? Sinner, like the worst. Right? That's who I thought I was. That's really when I took away all my labels and roles. So is it any wonder why when I stripped away this, when I stripped away my labels, roles, and positions, and I was left with this, that I immediately wanted to run right back here? Like every quiet moment that I ever had where I was like, who the heck are you, George, in the dark, in this one moment right now? And I would, in that time, because I was so consumed with all these horrible thoughts, I was alone. That's what I said I was. George, you're alone. George, you're a loser. George, you're an addict. George, you're homeless. George, you're broke. George, you're like the worst sinner right now. And what I realized was that, again, what do we say? That was all a product of my first thoughts. That was a product of the damaged ego. That was a product of my emotions. That was a product of even my experiences, right? That was not who I am, though. So when I had a chance to now be able to go back and say, well, who the hell is George? Well, the list looked a little bit different. And there's no way I can anyway put this on any type of application, resume, or anything. But when I really had a chance to figure out who George was, well then, things like survivor, powerful, that's sloppy, but it's committed to learning. What was it? Passionate. Right? What else did I have here? Had serving for God. I had some real general stuff, guys. But look at this now, though. Once I got a chance to get past my first thoughts and I'm looking at some real things, well, then I realized that, you know what, okay, yeah, I've done some pretty crappy things in my life, but who I am, though, I'm a survivor because I've been around, I've made it. Outside of addictions, I had a past that I was able to overcome and get to this point. I'm powerful. Does my power got to be matched up to the next Hercules dude beside me? Absolutely not. Different levels of power right here. For me personally, to have to deal with the loss of relationships and loss of family and loss of what I thought was my identity through my labels, roles, and positions, guys, and overcoming those things. When I began to just invest in personal development, and when I say personal development, guys, I mean personally developing me. It wasn't about saying I read X amount of books anymore. I used to do that back then. Well, I read 1,000 books about this area of personal development. That wasn't what it was about. It was about how do I better just myself? How can I learn more about me so I can be better? I realized I was passionate. I'm a servant of God. I'm a helper of people. And then I began saying, well, if I've been going into my labels, roles, and positions trying to hide this, well, what happens if I take my labels, roles, and positions and I start pushing out this? And guys, can I tell you, that's literally around the time my entire world began to change in so many different areas. This moment right here was very clear for me. This was after I dealt with coaching and counseling, after I'm free of my compulsive habits, but I still felt alone. I felt I was a loser. I felt I was an addict, homeless, broke, the worst kind of sinner, period, right? And then I had a chance to understand, okay, George, get past the stinking thinking, right? Let's move past that. Get past your ego. Get past your experiences. Get past your emotions. Put pen to paper and just let come out what comes out. And things like, Survivor came out. Would everybody agree that I'm a survivor? They don't got to. Everybody's not going to agree that they want to have beans. They don't change the fact that beans are still in here. Period. I'm committed to learning. I'm passionate. I'm a servant of God. And now, let me push that into my roles. Guys, let me tell you what happened when this happened to me. Not only did I begin to rebuild the relationships with my children, with great peers at that time, I got new connections at that time, guys. I was promoted twice in a crazy time span, right? I went from being demoted twice to literally be getting 3 different promotions over a period of time to being able to say I was that branch manager. right? I mean, I had such a brand new relationship with my faith and with God. Like, it was amazing when I finally got to the point of saying that me being a Christian is not about trying to hide the sinner part of me, but me being a Christian is like, okay, that's there, but this is who I am. Guys, very clearly, when you look at your identity, I want you to be very clear. Your identity is not what you have become. Your identity is not what you have amassed over time. Guys, your identity is what you've been from the beginning of time. Like from birth. Like, it's a lot that happens right now in society. It's a lot of upheaval, just like racial unrest right now in society. And I see so many posts about, you know, racism and hate. And one of the biggest things that I've always seen that I like that's very so clear is that hatred ain't taught. Guys, I'm sorry, hatred you're not born with. That's taught. So guys, look, alone, loser, addict, homeless, broke, sinner, you're not born with that kind of stuff. Not in this capacity, guys. What you're born with is this right here. Over time, because of the things that I did, my consequences from actions that I'm not going to be able to ever get past, well, not ever get past, but I got to accept that they happen. I can't erase them, but it doesn't change my identity. And I need you guys to understand that. That is going to be so key for you guys in making the change. You cannot, remember, mindset is nothing but a collection of principles and beliefs to further one's endeavor towards a particular goal. You can't have a mindset until you understand your own identity. Guys, my identity, unfortunately and fortunately, it made me unemployable. Like, it's crazy. Like, no, does it mean that Coach G never would get a job or anything? No, it has nothing to do with that. But when this came around and I started realizing this is who I was, and you realize who you are, and you bring it forward, guys, you're going to realize that you won't always fit in the same boxes that the labels, roles, and positions had you in. Like, you're now growing, and people are going to see this. Yeah, the outside is going to see this. So when the generic can of beans all of a sudden wants to step up like your top of the line name brand beans, people are going to look at you a little bit strange and different. When the generic can of soup all of a sudden becomes that top of the line freshly made soup that everybody wants, people are going to start looking at you a little bit different. It's the same daggone can of soup. And then wondering, how are you the same person, but you're able to put out so much more? Simply because you guys just got in contact with your real identity. You stop falling into the trap that life is designed to give you that says what you see is more important than who you are. That's one of the biggest lies right there for you guys about what we visually see. If we had to go off what we visually see, especially in this world right now, it doesn't make it easy to get up in the morning. It doesn't. I don't know too many stations that are just showing like violent programming. That's what we see. It's not a lot of news clips that are going around about every great positive thing that's happening in the community right now. More often than not, it's being played with what's happening in politics and government, and why is that wrong? What's happening in society and community, and why is that wrong? And if you happen to fall within the labels, roles, and positions here, like it's almost like me now saying, okay, every police officer, because that's your position, role, and label, I have to now keep you in that box. And what I really so much love is when I see these guys in blue, that they exhibit their own different identity. You got to get to that spot. That's going to be the most key place for a lot of us, is just understanding that my mindset, again, this is the reason why I have a Y here instead of an I, guys. This has got to be for you. This is yours. This is your mindset. You can't take someone else's mindset. And in doing so, you can't have someone else's identity. You got to have your own identity if you really plan on being the best in whatever label, role, or position you pursue. Pursuing these is not wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. When you say, I'm becoming these, that's the problem. It doesn't matter if someone calls me a particular thing. People call me Coach G all day long. Who I am is this. Period. My children can call me dad. It doesn't change me from being this. Period. Nothing changes. Me being a Christian doesn't change this at all anymore. You see, I used to fit into certain boxes as a Christian. I had to fit in all these different little boxes. And now, there's no box for George. Like, if you, on the outside, need a label or a role to attach to me, then okay, you do what you have to do. But who I am, my identity, guys, that ain't changing. It's not changing also. Here's what I want you guys to do. Assignment time. Assignment time, guys, right? I want you guys to get this real work in, guys. You got to get this real work in. So, here's the deal. I want you to just put pen or pencil to paper, and I want you to just start writing. And trust me, you might just have to start your identity, and we're going to call this your personal identity statement, your PIS, personal identity statement. It may start off with you having to list your labels, roles, and positions, because a lot of us can't see past that. I speak to a lot of women, and they're like, they can't see themselves past the mom who cooks, cleans, and wipes, runny noses and dirty butts. That's who I am. I'm the help. I'm the housekeeper. I'm this. I've never heard them like, man, I'm that kick-ass woman. I'm that strong-ass girl. I'm that boss chick. Like all those little things that come out, right? Like when they get inside of that label, role, and position, and men do it as well. Make no mistake about it. Like, men do it so much that it's crazy. Like, I've seen the difference where men just seek that position, label, and role, and then they want the next label or role because they don't know who they are anymore. They're like, I got the new position, but who the hell am I now? I gotta go back to something else. And they keep searching for more and more. You know what we call them people? Those are your workaholics. Right? Don't get me wrong, all workaholics aren't lacking in identity. But when you're more consumed with fulfilling the role, label, and position than who you are, and guys, I'm talking about the quality of the time. I'm not talking about the quantity of the time. I want to be very clear on that. A lot of us have different labels, roles, and positions that we are invested in hours throughout hours and days on end. But in those brief moments, and even in those moments when you're being consumed with the labels and roles, you still need to know here who you are. Guys, if you don't know your identity, no one else will know your identity. So when no one else knows your identity, all they're going to do is assign you a label, role, or position. You want to know how we get followers? We get people who don't have their identity, and they say, you know what? I need somebody to tell me what I got to do. I need somebody to give me a label. I need somebody to give me a role. Give me a position. Tell me what to do. Right? Like, that used to be me, and then I realized, you know what? If I'm a helper of people, I don't got to wait for this. I don't. And here's the deal again. It's going to rub people the wrong way sometimes. People are going to get rubbed the wrong way when you help them and by correcting them. Now, what are you doing correcting me? And I'm going to tell you why that happens. It ain't because you touched on a part of their identity. No, not at all. When somebody's upset that you had to correct them in helping them, they're upset because they feel you challenged their label, you challenged their role, you challenged their position. I've even had to learn how to communicate in a different way. When I talk to dads, I got to realize that just because I may have more experience, I got to be able to pull back sometimes and not like feel the need to kind of confront them or challenge them in their label, role, and position. But what I now do is say, well, who are you? Aside from being the dad, like, who are really you? Now, how does this come out in that? That's the deal. It's not about me looking at someone and saying, dude, you're an addict. Do A, B, C, D, E. No. I need to look at that person and say, all right, brother, I get it. You've dealt with some issues, but now we got to figure out who you really are and now say, how can we use that to help further the mission? I don't know not one person I've been able to ever help out where they continually thought that they were alone, a loser, an addict, homeless, broke, the worst sinner, and they recovered. I don't know that story. I don't want to know that story, because if someone like broke past recovery and someone's out with their life and they're like compulsive habit free, but they still feel like alone, loser, addict, homeless, broke, worst sinner, who are they? That's not someone I want to be around. That's not someone I want to interact with. And honestly, being this way doesn't allow for a lot of people to interact with me as well. Listen, that's okay. Remember what I talked about with the habits, and the beauty of us being in habit land is that now we can easily fit into the more common trends. So if you're not going to be a resident of habit land, you got to understand that those common trends of fitting in, that's not going to cut it. It's not about how you fit in. It's about how you take who you are and just move. It's not about, when I hear fit in, you got to maneuver so many parts of you. It's like you can't even expose a part of you until then. And I can't operate like that anymore. Guys, I'm 39 years old. I've spent a good 30 plus years operating within labels, roles, and positions. I've talked to men out there who spent 40, 50, even 60 years operating with labels, roles, and positions for them to just now figure out what their identity is. And it's a bit of a culture shock to them because they're like, this is who the fuck I really am? I'm really this? I spent more than half my life believing I was this or believing I was only this. And scared to find out what this was. The moment you find out what this is, these become illuminated. You see, that's the biggest issue some people have, is that they feel that they can't be themselves in a particular label, role, or position. I used to feel that way. I used to be like, okay, there's certain parts of me I can't do as a husband, certain parts of me I can't do as a dad, certain parts of me I can't show if I'm a salesman, certain parts of me I can't show if I'm a Christian. Like, if you're a Christian, you can't curse, and you can't, whatever else you say you can't do, right? I mean, you can't have maybe the social time with your friends kind of deal, or whatever the case might be. I used to hide so many parts of myself. Now it's no longer hiding. Now I just simply get to be me. And here's the deal. If me doesn't cut it here, 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 for you or for them, I'm sorry, but that's their loss. What's the biggest loss I want to deal with? The loss of one group of people, one person, one organization on the outside who long-term probably isn't going to make the world's greatest impact to me, or me being true to myself and my identity that I got to take forever. Guys, your jobs ain't lasting forever. I don't care how career-oriented you are. There is a such thing as retirement. Unless you just want to die doing what you're doing. That's fine. Most people I know of, they want to retire. And it's interesting. I mean, what happens when you see people retire? It's like you're seeing that guy, right? I'm not the only one. You've seen that guy driving on the highway. He's in a fast lane, doing like 50 miles an hour in like a Corvette or a Ferrari. You pull up beside him, and it's like this old dude who's sitting there right now, who's watching, who's driving right now. Hey, Janelle. Hey, Kenneth. But you got the old guy who's driving. Guys, listen. That guy spent so much time dealing with his labels, roles, and position. He finally got to a place where he's like, well, how can I finally express myself? So he goes out and gets the Lambo, the Ferrari, the Corvette, and he's out driving. Because that tied into some part of his identity that he felt he couldn't ever have. Guys, again, before we wrap this up, I need you all to get this. Mindset principle number 1 is identity. What we have normally been taught is labels, roles, position. And we let that become our identity. That's not the case. Your assignment, create your own personal identity statement. Again, guys, remember the purpose of the labels. It's for everybody else to see. Like, what's inside these cans, it ain't changing. What's inside of you, it's not changing. I don't care what you got to put on a resume from your last job or how you got to position yourself for the next opportunity, but who you are does not change. And the sooner you come in contact with who you are, the sooner now you get to look at your labels, roles, and positions and do a couple things. Number 1, you get to decide if that's where I need to be. I'm so tired of listening to people, and I talk to people who are in these jobs that they feel like crap coming out of them. Like, it's the worst post in the world that I see on social media. It's like, oh, I just need the clock to just hit 5 and I want to be away. I can't stand my coworkers. Oh, I can't. And they feel like they're really stuck. They're stuck. And I'm going to tell you why they feel that they're stuck. Because of their labels, roles, and positions. Because they got so consumed with their broken ego, their poor experiences, and their bad emotions that they began to say, like, I got to work this raggedy ass job. And I'm going to feel like crap about this job for like 8 whole hours. And then I'm going to spend another 30 to 45 minutes complaining about this job to everybody and their mama for me to wake up and do it all over again. And then the worst part is that when the weekend comes up, when the holiday comes up, I don't even get to hear about their identity, I still got to hear about their what? Labels, roles, positions. I'm so glad I'm away from the office this weekend. I'm so glad I don't have to do this weekend. Got the kids away. I'm so glad I don't got to be a mom. Like, or whatever the case may be. I see this all over. And the one part that gets me is how eager we are to break free of the labels, roles, and positions that we have, especially when we don't want to have them. But we're not consumed enough to say, okay, well, what is my identity? Who am I on the inside? If I don't want these daggone labels, do I know who I am on the inside except being upset with what it is I am labeled with on the outside? Know who you guys are. Again, when I did this starting out, guys, alone, loser, addict, homeless, broke, worst sinner. First thought's wrong. Second thought's right. Break free of the ego, the emotions, the experiences. I'm a survivor because I went through some shit. I made it. And you know what? I'm powerful. Does my power again got to match up to Hercules beside me? I don't care about Hercules beside me. I don't care how Hercules beside me wants to label me as small, short, weak, whatever. No, George, identity, powerful. I'm committed to learning. I don't care if I got D's all on my... I don't care what the world sees. You got to know what your identity is. I'm passionate. I'm a servant for God. I'm a helper of people. You see, now, if somebody's going to check me, I get checked on who I am, not what I'm doing. I want you guys to get that. Get checked on who you are, not what you've become. Not what you've acquired. It's like you want to look at the guy, the same man who made 20,000, all of a sudden becomes the same guy who has 20 million, so his role position has changed. That means I got to address him any differently? Not if none of this changed. I need to know this. What I really love from wealthy people is that when you ask them who they are, they don't even tell you like a title. They don't give you a position. They say things like, I'm a constant learner. They say things like, you know, I'm just a man just like you who's trying to figure out the best way for my natural gifts and talents to be displayed in the world. Guys, it's amazing the higher up you get, the different kind of conversations you come across. But if you stay anywhere you are, you're going to be stuck with labels, roles, and positions. And yes, you're going to begin to think, well, then that's it. That's my entire identity, and I'm just going to rock that out. But again, when I was struck down from being a dad, and when I was struck down from being a husband, I was struck down from being a salesman, and you know, I was even struck down my own head of being a Christian, I had to look and say, who the heck am I? And I'm asking you guys to do the exact same thing. Shoot me a comment, shoot me a message, give me a call. You guys know the number, 443-600-9169. Shoot me an email or anything, but I want to know what your personal identity statement is. And then let's see how that identity moves into your labels, roles, and positions. That's my time, guys. Remember, mindset principle number 1, identity. Know who you are, not who you've become and what you've acquired. I love you guys. Kick ass. Peace.